Hey there, it is your friend and dietitian, Kait Richardson. I'm so glad you guys are here today. It's a different kind of episode for a few reasons. One, I am videotaping it for the first time ever. Going to put this on Spotify and see if I can create a video podcast. But second, I am sharing some more personal details about my own journey, my own life, while I share applicable tips and tools and strategies that you, the listener, can implement right away. Things you can start as soon as you turn your phone off if you want to look and feel as healthy as you know your soul can be. And what I mean by that is there are so many of us who just know in our heart of hearts that we are meant to be healthier. We're meant to show up in the world more vibrant, more energized. We want to live in a body that feels aligned to us, but something is off. Something is off. We might feel like we're living a healthy lifestyle or we do a lot of things right, but there is just something missing that's keeping us from feeling fully aligned and embodied with who we want to be. And I want to share that journey with you, because I am a registered dietitian who hasn't always felt as healthy as I knew I could be, especially in my mid-20s. And I'll tell you, when I was in my mid-20s, I was a social butterfly. I was not partying like a rock star, but I was out on the town. I was mingling. I was going on dates. I was eating and I was drinking. And even though my routine looked healthy, there were some key things that were off balance. And this podcast is the advice I would give to that 20-year-old version of me on how to really look and feel as vibrant as I knew my soul was. There were some things off. A little bit more about my journey is I am 9 months postpartum. I'm breastfeeding. I am almost 31, so I'm in my 30s. I'm in that decade where things start to change, and I have never looked and felt healthier in my life. I have more energy than I did 2 years ago, which is insane because I'm still waking up at least once a night with my son. Maybe I've just gotten used to the sleep deprivation piece, but my lifestyle plays a huge factor in this. And I don't think I would be able to show up at work and give to my clients, create podcasts, be a good mom, be a good fiance, do all of the things that I do if I wasn't living in accordance to these healthy tools and strategies I'm going to share with you. They really align with my values. And from a physical standpoint, I am fitting into shorts that I did not feel comfortable in 2 years ago. I'm at the lowest weight I've been since I'm 20, which has not, and I'm so clear about this, has not been intentional. It's just sort of happened postpartum. And I believe it's because being pregnant and giving birth forced me to reset how I went about in the world. I used to be somebody who liked to do it all. I did everything big. If I went to the gym, I was going to the gym 5-6 days a week and I was going hard. If I went out, we were going to go out and we were going to get drinks and we were going to get appetizers. And then I would come home on little sleep and then I'd feel kind of weird about all of the things I consumed. And the next day I'd feel like I'd have to go hard again, but with like exercise and all this stuff. And realizing when I slowed down and created a healthy balance, my body's responded so much better. My soul just feels like more full, if that makes sense. So I don't have to turn to food. And becoming a mom really helped me do that. And I want to just like capture these habits in a bottle and keep them forever, which is part of the reason of this podcast. So I want to share with you why I feel so amazing. And if I could give advice to myself 5 years ago, 3 years ago, this is what I would tell her. You might be here because you were sent this podcast by a friend who was listening and they're like, ooh, like I know so-and-so would really like this episode. I think she would get something from it. Or you might be here because you searched how to have a glow up, postpartum nutrition. I don't know how you got here, but you're going to be here because you want applicable tools. You want to feel not only inspired and motivated, right? Like how many of us just need like a daily dose of motivation to give us a kick in the pants to start taking some action. And action can mean just auditing our lifestyle, changing how we think about things, right? Having motivation just makes the process more fun. It's not always going to be here. We're not always going to wake up feeling inspired or motivated, but dang, like, isn't it great when we do? Like, I love when I just have like a flood of excitement about a project or whatever it might be. So you're here because you want that, but you also want to take away something. Like you need an action step, you need a tool. This is my motto when I have clients come in the office. I'm like, hey, we can sit here and talk in circles about your feelings around food and your body and your blah, blah, blah. But you have to leave here with something to work on, something to reflect, something to implement, something to try, even if it's a new recipe or starting some kind of food journaling process. You need an action step. You need a goal, if you will. So I'm going to make sure you get 5 of those in today's podcast. You're here because you really care about your health. The key thing that has brought you to this podcast is you know you're healthy. Like you compare yourself to the people around you or what you see online, and you're like, yeah, no, I'm healthy, but I'm not who I'm meant to be yet. I'm not there. There's something missing. I feel like I'm doing something wrong. This podcast is going to introduce you to 5 things that can help you get more clues. Maybe you've tried these things and they're not what's missing. Like these aren't the game changers for you, like they were the game changers for me and a ton of the women I work with. But they're going to at least get you closer to what that actual answer might be. And if you don't know, work with a dietitian. I can't recommend it enough. Megan and I are at Nutrition Awareness. This is our thing. We like to act like detectives when it comes to your health, your body, and nutrition. We're going to find clues to help you solve that mystery of health. So if you want to work with us, I have linked in the bio orlandodietitian.com, and you can read all about us and what we offer. You might also be here because you have some kind of history with hormone concern or hormonal imbalance. A little bit about me is when I was in my 20s, I had something called hypothalamic amenorrhea, HA. And this is a condition where you are over-exercising and or under-eating at the same time, and you don't have enough calories to have a menstrual cycle. So I went 14 months without a menstrual cycle because I was just going too hard in the gym and I was too afraid of eating. So part of the tips for today are applicable to that, but also if you have PCOS or hypothyroid, if you have high cortisol, girl, you're going to listen to this episode. A lot of these tips align with the female body and hormonal imbalances. I'm going to share 5 tips with you, and I want to tell you that as I was writing these and I was thinking about the order that I wanted to share them with, I put the most important, invaluable, most applicable one as number 5 because I really just think it like hits it all home. So make sure that you stick around to listen to number 5. If you are driving or walking, continue to listen to this podcast, but it would not hurt you to have your notes app on your phone so you can like voice memo in there, any kind of interesting things that pop up for you. And if you want to revisit the podcast later and take notes, be my guest. Without further ado, let's talk about the 5 things that help me have a health glow up as a postpartum registered dietitian in her 30s. This is the advice I would give to the version of Kait in her 20s who was healthy but not thriving, who was not glowing. In fact, I think I'm going to post on the Nutrition Awareness Instagram a little video that summarizes some of these, and I'm going to put some pictures of myself in there because I was cute, like I looked good, but I looked imbalanced. I was like puffy, it was like I had a puffy look. I was also like 15 pounds heavier. So yeah, if you're interested. The biggest one is drink less alcohol. That's like the biggest piece of advice I would give to 25-year-old Kait. It dulled my skin. It dulled my hair. It dulled my spirit. It is crazy how when you're pregnant, obviously you cannot drink, and do not argue me on that. I know there are people who say you can have drinks in your third trimester. I'm not one of those people. I will never recommend drinking alcohol while pregnant because, newsflash, the Surgeon General of the United States now recommends 0 alcoholic drinks per week per person not pregnant. So why do we do it pregnant? Anyway, when I gave birth, I still did not drink a lot of alcohol. And even, the years leading up to when I got pregnant, I wasn't drinking a lot, but I had a few nights sprinkled in every month where I just didn't care. Like if we were going out, we were going to have drinks in the afternoon at a brewery, and then that night I'd have wine. There was weeks where I would have 5, 6, 7, 8 drinks per week. And when I was in my 20s and I was very social and I was in like the downtown scene and going out, because that's what you do when you're young, I can promise you I was drinking more than that. Oh my God, the difference is just night and day between my skin. You'd almost think postpartum you'd look and feel puffier. Not me. Taking alcohol out of my diet for 9 months and then some, because postpartum, you do not want to drink a lot of alcohol when you are waking up to breastfeed over and over and over again. First of all, you don't want to be drinking alcohol, excessive amounts of alcohol if you're breastfeeding. Like, that's just a pain in the butt. But there was one time I had like half a sugary margarita and oh my God, my head felt awful. I just felt like I was having a hangover before I even went to sleep. And when my poor sweet baby cried at midnight for me to go get him, I felt it. So it really has not been worth it for me to drink alcohol postpartum. I probably have 2 drinks max per week. Most weeks I have 0 to 1. I will never go back. There will be special occasions, there'll be weddings, there'll be celebrations. Those are my exceptions to the rule, but I still can't see myself wanting to have a lot of alcohol because of how it makes me feel. And I notice even just having 1 or 2 drinks, I don't sleep as well. In fact, the studies show that even just 1 alcoholic beverage impacts your sleep, which is like the recipe for beauty. We call it beauty sleep for a reason. It definitely impacts my energy the next morning. It impacts my decisions around food. It impacts my energy to sit down and make a grocery list or take a walk. Like I might still do those things because they're burned in me, but am I going to enjoy them? Am I going to maximize them? Am I going to feel like my best self while I do it? No. So if I could give my young version any advice, it would be that, have your fun cocktail, go to the brewery with friends, have 1, have 2, but I promise you after that second drink, you're going to feel fine with water. You're not going to miss out anything that fun. You're going to be fine with water. You can go back home. You're going to get a better night's sleep. You're going to do just fine. Do not get the 3rd drink. And if you go out Friday night, don't drink Saturday night. You're going to be fine. Biggest piece of advice, limit the alcohol. If this feels depressing to you, think of it as an experiment. Give yourself 30 days. No alcohol, or put a limit on alcohol, cut it by 50% or more. Just see how you feel. There is no way you're going to feel worse. And it's a short-term experiment. Do a dry month. It's not going to kill you. I promise you can do it. The second piece of advice I'd give the younger version of myself: stop exercising hard in the paint 4, 5, 6 days a week. Yes, I was lifting in the gym at a high intensity over 5 times a week, often 6. I remember I'd have days where I felt like sad. It was my rest day because I was like, I need 1 rest day. No, I needed more rest days from that heavy lifting. Here's the thing. As a woman, especially a woman who is wanting to have a menstrual cycle, your body does not withstand as much stress or tension as a man's body that has higher testosterone, okay? It's just a whole different chemistry. You can still lift heavy and you can still have high intensity workouts because trust me, those feed my soul too. But you got to find your balance. And I don't see many women benefiting from more than 4 days a week of that. I find the sweet spot for moderate to high intensity exercise is closer to 2 to 3 times a week for women. Have women been studied enough for us to really find what that key balance is? Unfortunately, no. This is just what I see in my practice, especially for women with hormonal concerns and menopause. We need to strength train, but we do not need to go till failure every single workout, every single day. My personal recipe to success, 3 days of strength training, and I only go between 70 to 80% of my intensity. Meaning, if I'm doing squats, I've got 2 reps in reserve by the time I put that barbell back on the rack. So if I'm doing squats and I've got 245 plates on there and I get to rep 9 and I'm kind of feeling shaky, I might crank 1 more out, knowing that I could really force myself to do 1 or 2 more, and then I stop because there's no reason to go to failure anymore. I don't see any benefit from that. And I just feel tired. I have a harder time recovering. The other thing that can happen when you are overtraining is you get a spike in appetite. Not fun. I write about this in my book, How to Eat Like a Normal Person, chapter 5. Josie was a binge eater, and one of her root causes, she had many root causes of her binge eating. Some were emotional, meaning like her self-esteem and how she saw herself in the dating world. But the other one was purely physical. She was lifting in the gym, and then she would just be hungry and justify eating large amounts of food. Her vice was fast food. For other people, it's snack foods, or for me, it would be sugar. So she was justifying this like large appetite by how much she worked out. When we changed her workouts and she scaled back on the gym, didn't give it up completely, and integrated low intensity cardio like bike riding and walking her dog, she felt so much more in control of food and her body responded well. That was key for me, key for Josie. You can do all sorts of combinations of exercise. It takes some trial and error, but if what you're doing now is not working, try something new. I'll do 3 days of strength training, and then on the days I'm not strength training, I have some kind of step goal, or I do Pilates at home at moderate intensity at most. I never do like an advanced yoga if I'm also doing advanced strength training in the gym. I encourage everyone to set a step goal, but here's my thing about step goals. If you're going to the gym or you're doing any other kind of workout, on those days, you don't need to meet your step goal. And your step goal doesn't have to be 10,000. It can be 8,000. And maybe on the days you're going to the gym, it's 5,000. It's just more than what you're doing now. There are so many different ways to create a balance without overdoing it. You know you're doing too much if A, you're burnt out and you don't enjoy your workouts anymore. B, you're not seeing any progress in the way that you want to. If you are trying to burn body fat, but you're not burning body fat, and everything else with your diet's pretty good, we want to change your exercise. I had a client whose cortisol was elevated and it was just trending up, and she loves high intensity exercise. And we still haven't gotten to her place where she's ready to let some of that go, but everything else has just been perfect. Like her diet is perfect. Her sleep is perfect. She just needs to do some lower intensity exercise because her cortisol is not responding well to 5 days a week of a lot of cardio. Or it's too much if you are not seeing any gains, if you have fitness gains, meaning if you're trying to build muscle tissue or lift heavier weights or hit a new PR with running. If you are doing too much, if you are overtraining, you may find that you actually not meet your goals. Rest is just as important as the actual training. That's when your muscles grow, your body can recover, so you can show up stronger. I know for a lot of us, rest is not easy. That was the case for me in my 20s. I just was go, 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 all or nothing. Guys, all or nothing just doesn't work with fitness and physiology, especially for women. The third thing I would tell myself is stop trying to eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Okay, this is insane. I heard at a creator, I wish I could credit her because I don't remember her name, but she had a term for this. And she said, when you are just so focused on eating insane amounts of protein, you become protein blind. What does that mean? It means you are so focused on protein that you forget about the nutrients found in plant-based foods, things that are rich in antioxidants, plant-based sources of omega-3s, fiber, phytonutrients, micronutrients, all these amazing things that just fuel your body. And if you're thinking, well, I could just drink my green supplement or I could just take some vitamins, Okay, sure, rack up a big bill on supplements, but you're forgetting about how when you eat plant-based foods, like when you eat broccoli, when you eat sweet potatoes and oats and berries, that is so nourishing for the soul. Like, can you feel the energy when you ingest those foods compared to the energy when you eat like a chalky protein bar that's like ultra processed, or some kind of like protein powder that you don't even like? Don't get me wrong, there are quality protein powders and bars, but if you're so desperate to get to a really high number, like for me, it was 155 grams of protein. Are you crazy? Like, that is so much protein. I can't get all of that from food. I was relying on supplements, which is fine, but I was not eating a variety of nutrients. And here's what happened to me. When I was eating this high number of protein, I was neglecting carbs and fat. So that impacted my menstrual cycle. We need dietary fat to help synthesize hormones. And I was craving carbs at night because I was virtually eating none during the day, or not nearly enough for my activity level. So I'd eat all this protein, and then I would eat a ton of ultra-processed, sugary, refined carbs in the evening. And sometimes they weren't even like ultra processed refined, because I wouldn't keep those in my house all the time. I would have like big bowls of oatmeal with massive scoops of peanut butter before bed, because I was just so desperate for those nutrients that I lacked all day, that as a result, I ended up eating more calories in a day. You're going to do so much better eating between 1.2 and 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram, okay? Kilogram. If you don't know your weight in kilograms, divide your weight in pounds by 2.2. It's that simple. So you only need 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight to build muscle tissue. Aim towards that 1.6 if you're actively building. Fall closer to 1.2, 1.3 if you are simply maintaining, or you are not able to eat that much protein, right? Like, if I gave you a recommendation for 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram, which, let's say if you were like 155, that would be like 115 grams of protein. If that feels like too much, you don't have to eat that much. Like, don't force yourself to eat all this protein for the sake of hitting some arbitrary protein goal. Studies show that there really isn't that much of a benefit after eating 1.6 grams per kilogram, and you can still see results in that 1.2 to 1.6 range. Fourth thing, stop with the energy drinks. Like, ew, stop with the double espressos. Stop with all the caffeine. You don't have to stop with coffee. Okay, when I was pregnant, I was disgusted by coffee. I was also disgusted by meat during the first trimester, which also helped with that whole protein thing. But that went away pretty fast, thank goodness, because I'm a carnivore. I like my meat. But the energy drinks and the caffeine, like, oh God, it just repulsed me. And what a beautiful reset for my body, because I realized going into my second trimester, when all that first trimester fatigue was behind me, that I really didn't need coffee to get through my day. In fact, I felt better without it. Now, don't get me wrong, now that I'm 9 months postpartum, I still have a cup of coffee per day. I never finish it, because if you have a baby or a child, you put that cup of coffee down, it gets cold. I'm not reheating it. I'm not putting my coffee in the microwave. If that's your life, like, by all means, do it. But it's not the same reheated up for me. I don't do it. So here's the reason why you might actually feel better and more energized and glowy and vibrant without coffee or with less caffeine. So caffeine blocks adenosine receptors in our body. So adenosine is a neurotransmitter, which is just a chemical in your brain that signals our body to feel sleepy and tired. So the caffeine blocks the receptors so we don't feel the effects of adenosine. However, here's the key. Our body is still synthesizing adenosine even when we have coffee in our system. So adenosine is still being created, it's just not being received. When that caffeine wears off and the adenosine receptors are open, wham, we feel a flood of adenosine and a wave of fatigue and sleepiness. And guess when this usually hits us? Yeah, between like 1 and 5 p.m. when we naturally have a drop in our cortisol, meaning we have a natural drop in motivation. So we're going to feel extra tired. And what happens here are people typically do one of a few things. One, they go eat food to feel better, which if they're being mindful and aware, this can be a great option, right? Food gives us energy. But more often than not, when we are feeling this like crash, we want quick energy in the forms of carbs, sugar, or more caffeine. And sometimes this caffeine is going to be paired with sugar. And if you're just drinking like some low calorie coffee, you're just delaying this process until later in the evening. So maybe you suppress your appetite with black coffee, but then after dinner, you just want to eat all the carbs, all the sugar, 3 servings of rice at dinner, like you name it. Your body's going to be desperate for the energy that it did not get when you suppressed it with caffeine. So if you are drinking a ton of caffeine or energy drinks, Alani Nu, Celsius, all that stuff with artificial junk in it anyway, knock it off. Here's what you can do. You can switch to black coffee and then cut your serving in half. I can't do black coffee. I put half and half in there. If you're doing a lot of sugar, just try half and half. You're going to get the creaminess. It's just not going to be sweet. It's not going to be super bitter. You're not going to get a spike in blood sugar and then the crash in energy from the added sugar. You're going to be fine with milk or half and half, almond milk, like whatever. Cut your normal serving in half. And if that's above a cup, cut it in half again until you get to a cup or less. Or switch to something with less caffeine like matcha. Here's the 5th tip that I would give the 25-year-old version of myself. And this is that tip I told you to save up for. And that is to not only learn nutrition, because like I had that down, like I understand physiology and nutrition and I was up to date on things. That's part of my responsibility as a dietitian. We have to do continuing education units. We got our degree in nutrition and we are just immersed in that world with our professional organizations and requirements to maintain our licensure. So I knew nutrition science. But what was missing was that combination of nutrition science and what the literature said, and then my own intuitive inner knowing, understanding my body. And this is where that term that we hear all over, listening to our body, comes in. And we've heard the term intuitive eating. I call this informed eating. Maybe mindful eating is a more palatable term, but I call it informed eating because I'm not only informed about the literature and the science and the evidence-based nutrition recommendations, but I'm informed about my own body, my own hunger cues, my own fullness cues. I know which foods work well for me, which ones make me feel inflamed, which ones make me break out. Eggs make me break out, which a whole different podcast, but I did an elimination diet. Didn't eat eggs for like 3 months, ate them, massive breakout after 3 months of like perfect skin. So it's really learning and understanding your own body because every person's body is going to have different reactions. And yeah, sure, you can do some testing, but really focusing and listening to your body is the best thing you can do when you pair it with evidence-based nutrition. So if somebody online is just telling you something like, don't do this, you always have to do this, never eat this. First, let's see the research, if they can even show you the research. And then look who was studied in that research. Was it 18-year-old boys at college or was it postmenopausal women? And what is the efficacy of this study? So if you're not sure how to sort through or decipher studies, that's when you'll want to take that to a dietitian. That's our job. We interpret those kinds of things for you. And then take that study and reflect on your own life. So if a study is telling you that you should intermittent fast for improved heart function or heart cardiac outcomes or weight loss, like think about it. Like, is that really going to work for you? Try it. See if it does. Do some testing. Test your cholesterol when you start. Test it afterward. You can learn a lot about your body from these kinds of experiments, but don't just blindly trust what you see online. You have to listen to your body. And if you don't know where to start with this is where I would tell you need to pick up my book, How to Eat Like a Normal Person. I am so proud of this book. It is all of the things that I teach as a dietitian with my clients. And I put this book together because I wanted to give people who maybe don't have access to a dietitian more information on how they can learn to eat like a normal, healthy person, the best version of themselves. So the first chapter in the book is what I call the BNT protocol. This is all your nutrition science. You're going to learn the nuts and bolts of how to eat healthfully. I follow that 80-20 rule. So I tell you, what does the 80% actually look like? The B stands for a balance of macronutrients, protein, carbs, fats, and bonus points if you get your micronutrients in there, fruits, veggies, supplements. So you're going to learn the roles of the macronutrients. You're going to learn the best sources of protein, the best sources of carbs, the best, healthiest sources of fat, and how to combine them in a very balanced way, because every macronutrient plays a vital role in our health and our metabolism. The N stands for nutritious sources. So you're going to learn the most nutritious sources and why they're nutritious. Why is a sweet potato more nutritious than a French fry? Obviously, we know it's not fried if it comes from its whole source, but what else does it have in it? It has fiber, it has vitamin A. They're going to learn the best sources of food. And whenever you feel like you're restricted, the N in the BNT protocol reminds you that there are so many healthy foods out there that can be part of your 80%. There is an endless amount of, well, I guess not endless, it ends somewhere, but there is a bountiful list of healthy foods that you can combine to make part of your diet. And then the T teaches you how to time your meals in a way that keeps you fueled and focused and feeling really good. And then part 2 of the book is sharing applicable strategies to help you overcome unwanted eating behaviors and learn to listen to your body. So you'll see in that BNT chapter, you're learning all about nutrition. And then in the other chapter, which, it's actually part 3. Part 1 teaches you my philosophy. Part 2 teaches you the science. Part 3 teaches you the mindful eating strategies through the stories of real life clients. So some of these strategies are going to be like keeping a food journal, like Claire in chapter 1, understanding hunger and fullness cues from the hunger scale in chapter 2 with Mila. You're going to overcome emotional eating with Claire in chapter 3. You're going to overcome the arbitrary food rules that keep you stuck with Maggie in chapter 4. You're going to learn what your body actually needs, and you're going to lose all of those diet rules that have kept you spinning your wheels. In chapter 5 with Josie, you're going to stop binge eating. And in chapter 6, you're going to stop under-fueling for exercise and learn what your body needs to function like an athlete if you are a active person. So if you want to get my book, How to Eat Like a Normal Person, if you want to combine this strategy, it's in my show notes below on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes & Noble. I literally wrote this book for the younger version of me who went through eating disorders, hypothalamic amenorrhea, who had very poor body image, who's been overweight. I've just been through it all, and this book summarizes not only the journey of my real clients, but there's a little bit of me in every story as well. These are the 5 things that I would tell the younger version of myself if she wanted to have a glow up. I'm so curious to know if any of these really resonated with you. And if so, it really helps me if I hear your feedback. So we are on Instagram at nutrition.awareness. If you have any feedback or you wanted to share something about this podcast that stuck out to you, send us a message. And of course, it really helps us grow the podcast if you subscribe or send this episode to anyone you think that would help out. It would help out. All right. I will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for being here.